Well, according to one source, Italy may have seen the wettest May in some 70 years. Thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook for Thursday, the 18th of May. According to Hydrology IRPI, it looks as if comparing the last 16 days of rainfall versus the last 69 years, there has been more rain than any year in that 69-year period. So over 400 millimeters of rain has fallen in some parts of Italy over the last few days, and of course we've seen the flooded streets and the damage caused by that significant rain event. And it looks as if we aren't done just yet either, unfortunately, for this region of the world. This is off the ECMWF. This is weathercharts.com, and this is the total accumulated precipitation. It looks as if the UK, we'll talk about this in just a second, that extension of the Azores High, is going to protect the UK from weather systems over the next wee while or so. We will have enhanced shower activity. We've got frontal systems that will ride the northern flank of that area of high pressure, and that's going to enhance the instability within the atmosphere. Hence why we're going to see on and off shower activity over the next several days. And, rain amounts may, mount up because of those showers getting stuck in one given place for a period of time. But in terms of the lion's share of moisture, it looks as if up over Scandinavia, we're going to see, that kind of typical area where you've got the moisture bumping up off the Atlantic Norwegian Sea into the mountains of Norway. We are going to see the mountains get hit pretty hard, I think, over the next 10 days or so with the moisture here. But very interesting indeed, the fact that the Mediterranean basin is pretty loaded with regards to moisture. Further north, we've got this little gap in between where we're going to see moisture to the north, moisture to the south, and then in between we've got a little bit less in the way of moisture, as you can see here. So this is off the ECMWF, and this is off the GFS, and you can see here, same idea. The UK is not seeing as much rain as it has done, of course, during the previous, first 10 days of the month, where it has been quite wet. I have forecasted a wetter and slightly warmer than average May for the UK, and I think that looks as if it's going to play out quite nicely indeed. So, yeah, before we continue with the video, please please share with your friends and family, of course, and hit that subscribe button. I am in the final portion of putting together my summer forecast, and I'm pretty excited to release that. I am hopefully going to have that available for you towards Monday of next week here. So I think around the 21st, 22nd of May looks like the likely release date on marfoganweather.com for the summer forecast. But I think with the type of spring that we've had and the onset of the El Nino and whatnot, I am trending wetter with this summer. Not necessarily cooler than average, but we could see some pretty big back and forth swings between, quite significant wet weather, potential for flooding in places, and at times surges of hot conditions as well. But I think this could potentially be a very different type of summer to what we've seen, of course, last year, and indeed in years gone by. Something similar to 2015 is a possibility, where we've seen unusually cool days. We also seen flooding at times, and we also seen record-breaking warmth. It could be quite a mixed summer overall. So that is a little bit of a sneak preview in terms of what I'm thinking regarding the summer forecast. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already done so, do hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because there is a lot of interesting things going on. I am also planning over the next month or so to talk about the potential impacts the El Nino has, not only in the upcoming summer season, but in fact the upcoming winter season, believe it or not, because there is some interesting parameters out there that could suggest several different aspects. I'm also going to talk about some comparisons, some stuff that's a little bit over my head, if I'm being honest, with regards to analog years and various ENSO base states versus type of patterns during the summer season. So James Peacock, based down in Hampshire, provides some very, very interesting information, and I'll talk about some of the stuff that he's been sharing on Twitter as well with regards to the upcoming summer season. Shrine Bruin always delivers some very, very interesting statistics. Remember, we haven't exceeded 22.6 Celsius this year so far, so we're starting to get to that point now where not getting any warmer than 22.6 is getting a little bit unusual. Now the models are kind of slightly back on the idea of a significant warm surge towards the end of the month. We'll look at that in just a second. But there's so many things going on at the moment here. What a wild, slightly weird pattern that we've got at the moment. We've got, of course, this was the temperatures yesterday morning, by the way, over Central Europe, parts of Germany, parts of Western Poland. Frost, temperatures below freezing, unusually cool for the time of the year. Notice that over Iberia. Yeah, forget about the 38.8 at Cordoba Airport back in April. We're talking about unusually cool conditions as well as wet conditions, and that also could have an impact later down the road. Remember, we've got a severe drought at the moment over much of Iberia, and this, of course, is welcome news. Cool across France as well. A good swathe of Central Europe actually has been pretty cool to start the day. Also, let's not forget our friends up in Scandinavia. We do have some more warmth across parts of Turkey, where we've seen temperatures as high as 38 Celsius, I think, during the course of yesterday. So it was a chilly start, as you can see here, across eastern or central portions of Europe, should I say. And you can see here that the temperatures yesterday afternoon, nothing to write home about across much of Germany. The mid-teens at very best. We had temperatures in single figures yesterday in parts of southern Poland, eastern portions of the Czech Republic, northern Slovakia. We had widespread temperatures stuck in single figures in Austria, for example. So very, very cool conditions across the central portion of Europe. Of course, a strong area of low pressure, bringing, let's not forget that it was chilly across northern portions of Italy as well. But then, of course, we've got this blocky pattern, trough in between areas of high pressure. So we had, summer like, typical late May, early June warmth across the southwest of Iberia. So Spain and Portugal in some of that warmth. The hottest conditions across parts of Greece, western Turkey, where we had temperatures into the upper 20s, low 30s, and then of course into the southeast of Turkey, we had 38 Celsius. We had temperatures as high as 43 in Israel during the course of yesterday as well. But this is the temperature anomaly. This is off weatherbell.com. This is the CDAS data. And you can see here that, the warmth over southwestern Iberia, nothing to write home about really. This is a 2-day temperature anomaly here. So you can see here, you can kind of get the grasp of how much below average Central Europe was, kind of relatively slightly warmer than average across parts of northern UK. We had cool in average East Anglia and down into the London area. Very warm compared to average across much of Finland and into northwestern Russia, where we've seen temperatures into the high 20s, even north of the Arctic Circle. So yeah, very, very impressive contrasts across Europe. And if we look at the month so far, you can see here that we are slightly above average across the UK. Believe it or not, I've seen a few comments being mentioned about how cold it's been during the month of May. It actually hasn't been overly cold. It's been dull and it's been quite wet at times. And, temperatures into the, remember what the average is. So, it can be a little bit deceiving sometimes in terms of how, a particular weather pattern feels on your body versus the reality of what you'd expect at this time of the year. And it has been, believe it or not, a slightly warmer than average May. I think a lot of that's got to do with the nights have been quite mild. Days have been kind of tempered by a lot of cloud cover and whatnot. And even with sunshine, temperatures have, at very best, 20, 21 Celsius, 22 Celsius. The maximum is nothing to write home about. But on the average, slightly above. You see here kind of Central Europe, parts of Scandinavia, and indeed that eastern and southeastern portion of the continent, very cool compared to average. and we're laying down that wet soils, and it's going to be interesting to see where we go as we go forward here. So looking at the again back on the weathercharts.com, you can see here the slice of very cool compared to average, very impressive chill this afternoon across eastern portions of Poland, in particular parts of Lithuania, down into the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Romania. Places like this has been very, very chilly. Down into Italy, the Mediterranean basin, cooler than average and a lot wetter than average as well. And remember what we've got coming up. We've got a lot more rain between now and through the 25th of May down in this region of the world that is typically starting to dry out. So, of course, that's going to be welcome news for rivers and whatnot. Remember, parts of Italy, parts of Germany, Poland, France looked like a desert according to some satellite images last year. I think it's going to be a very different summer. I could be wrong with that. Like, we might still see some very impressive warmth. But yeah, I think we've got a very different summer coming up, folks. I really do. And let's have a look at the overview chart here. Go back to the current setup. This is off the GFS. You can see here as we play through. Notice the center of that high, that Azores high pressure system, stays to the kind of west-southwest of the UK. The important aspect about that is it means to say that we're not tapping anything particularly warm. We've got milder, yes, and ahead of these little frontal boundaries that enhance the upward motion, shower activity, the instability within the atmosphere, we have got a little bit of milder or warmer air just to the leading edge of that boundary, which then enhances the lift within the atmosphere. But what we've got is essentially just these little features running the northern flank of that high, the area of high pressure itself, 10-30 millibars, but it's not a particularly warm source of air. We're not drawing anything from the south or anything. We don't have particularly warm air really anywhere in Europe. In fact, some of our warmest air, rather than it being from the south, is actually coming in off the Atlantic. So if you look at the 850 temperature chart here, you can see what I'm talking about. Where's the warm source? We don't have it. Though any real true warmth is actually to the southeastern portion of the Med, of northeastern Africa, as you can see here. But really, the mildest air is actually over the Atlantic, which is quite interesting. We've got a little bit of a build-up of warmth, as you can see here, strangely enough, over Central Europe, as you can see here. And it does, according to GFS, try to nudge in early next week here. But notice we've got the resistance of cooler air coming in behind the frontal system. So we've got that cooler air coming in from a kind of west-northwest direction. We've got warm air, not hot air, but warmer air, trying to then move from the central portion of Europe, northwest towards the southeast of the UK, but it's coming up against the resistance of this cooler air. But like I say, we've got nothing major to talk about. Mid part of the week, we start to see the Mediterranean warming up somewhat. But you notice here that we've got this with the position of the high over the Atlantic. We've got cooler air coming in from a northwest direction, and it's always looking as if it's trying to win that battle with warmer air trying to lift up from the south here. Notice here by the time we reach next weekend, we've got a situation where we've got cooler air over the UK, over Western Europe, much warmer air now starting to lift into a good swathe of Eastern Europe here, which is quite interesting. And then as we push towards the very end of the month, there may be some indications that warmer air tries to move up. You notice here at the very, very end of the run here, we've got something slightly milder trying to lift in from Europe here. But the models are chopping and changing here. Remember what I showed you. Warm air starting to build across the north, cooler across the south. Now we've got this reverse now, warmer across the south, cooler across the north. So there's a lot of uncertainty with regards to the outcome, with regards to the solution as we go forward here. But certainly a lot of interesting things going on at the moment, quite a complex situation. So stay tuned. I will endeavour to try and explain what's going on, and I will hopefully be back again tomorrow with more. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.